Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. So we are here in Bali, Indonesia. I swear it was sunny about 10 minutes ago and then the clouds have rolled in and it doesn't look great. But I still want to take some time to talk today about aperture. Aperture is one of the most fundamental pieces of photography, and I've been trying to get back to some of the more fundamentals here on the YouTube channel. So today in this video, we're going to be talking about aperture, what it is, what it does, and also how you guys can choose the best aperture while you're out shooting. For those of you that are new here, what's up? My name is Sean. I'm a travel photographer and I produce weekly videos that teach you how to become a better photographer. So if you're new here, what's up? We're happy to have you here. And if you guys are interested in becoming better photographers, feel free to subscribe. Also, if you guys haven't downloaded it yet, I'm giving away a free orange and teal preset pack. The link to that is in the description. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about aperture. What is aperture? Aperture is one of the three main settings on your camera, right? There's shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. And aperture is essentially the little iris in your lens. It's the little hole in your lens that opens up to let in light. The smaller that hole is, the less light's gonna enter the camera. The larger that hole is, the more light is gonna enter the camera. So that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Aperture is denoted by a number, so also known as an f-stop. That might be f1.4, f1.8, f5.6, f22. And essentially the bigger the number, the smaller the hole is gonna be. The smaller the number, the wider the hole is going to be. So for example, like f1.4 is going to be wide open. There's a lot of light is going to be able to enter the camera, whereas like f22, it's going to be a really small hole and not a lot of light is going to enter the camera. So from an exposure perspective, from a perspective of how much light is entering the camera, aperture is pretty darn easy to understand. It's pretty simple. But what makes aperture so interesting and what makes it so important to photography, yes, it's the exposure side, but more importantly, it's the creative side, the artistic effect that aperture brings to our photos. And that's what I want to focus on in this video today. So the creative effect of aperture is its ability to control the depth of field in our image. If you don't know what that means, the depth of field essentially is the range of distance that is in focus within your image. If that doesn't make any sense to you, you can always understand it as how much blur is there going to be behind your main subject. Essentially, it's just how much of your frame is in focus and how much of your frame is blurry, or what we might call bokeh. We can achieve a shallower depth of field where only a very small part of the image is in focus by using a wider aperture, so a smaller number aperture like f1.4, f1.8, f2.8, and even f4 in certain situations. And then if you want to get more uniform frame throughout your focus, you would use a smaller aperture or a larger number like f8, f11, f16, or f22. Those are good if you really want to have a super deep depth of field in your image. So I can sit out here and talk about this all day long, but that's not why I came out here. I came out here to show you guys what these different apertures look like, because I think that's the best way to really understand aperture, is just to take a bunch of photos of all the different apertures and compare them. So I actually did take some photos before everything got really ugly out here, but I'm still going to take some more so you guys can see, and I'll just show you the better looking photos because they just look terrible right now because it's just super gray and not interesting at all. So let's head over to this cool little subject over here. I'm going to show you guys what all these different apertures look like. Okay, so we are here. We are in a rice paddy because Bali is full of these beautiful rice terraces, rice paddies, and this one hasn't been harvested yet, so it's really pretty. And there's this little shrine, I guess you would call it. I'm not sure exactly what you would call it, but they have some little prayer things here for the gods. Bali is Hindu, so there's a lot of gods, and they like to honor them with these things. So it's really cool, really pretty out here. So I'm gonna take some photos of this thing. I think it's a good example to show you guys all the different apertures. This is a Sony a6400 with a 35mm f1.4 lens on it. So it has a really nice wide maximum aperture of f1.4. I'm gonna shoot all the way from f1.4 all the way to f16, which is the smallest aperture that this camera is capable of. Some lenses will do f22, some lenses will do f16. This one does f16. Also to note, I'm gonna be shooting an aperture priority. I don't want to spend too much time focusing on the exposure side of aperture. I think it's pretty simple. I'm going to be shooting an aperture priority, and if you guys have seen my other videos, you know how much I love aperture priority. You can check this video out up here, and that's going to explain to you why I always recommend shooting an aperture priority and why I actually think manual mode is kind of a waste of time. So I'm actually going to step back here because I don't need to be that close. And I'm just going to take a bunch of different photos. We'll start off here with f1.4. All right, we'll go to f2. Oh, we'll go to f2.8. Might be more of a difference there. All right, we'll go to, this is f4 here. And we're doing f5.6. We'll do f8. All right, do f11. And we'll do f16, so we got them all. So when we look at all these images next to each other, it's really easy for us to see the difference between apertures that are really wide, like f1.4, and apertures that are really small, like f22. And I think this exercise is a really good way to see how aperture is gonna affect your scene. So you can see that apertures like f16, there's a lot more depth of field in your image. There's gonna be a lot more focus throughout your frame. So not only was our subject here in focus, but more of the background was in focus as well. We could see more of the houses in the back. We could see more detail in the grass behind the main subject. Whereas at f1.4, a lot of the grass was out of focus, the houses were much more out of focus, and we just had a much shallower depth of field. So when it comes to choosing your aperture when you guys are out shooting, there's two considerations you should make. The first of those being exposure considerations. If you're shooting an aperture priority, you don't need to pay attention to exposure so much because the camera's gonna be doing most of the work, but just don't shoot with an aperture like f22 when you're in a dark room. There's just not gonna be enough light getting into the camera. So if you're shooting in a darker environment, try to use a wider aperture to make sure that the camera has enough light to take a good exposure. After you guys have locked in your exposure, the second consideration is just gonna be, what do you want your depth of field to be? And this is really gonna come with experience. The more you guys will shoot, the more you're gonna know what kind of depth of field you're gonna want in your images. And the more you're gonna understand your lenses and the capability that your camera has at all those different apertures. For example, I always like to shoot my portraits at something like f2.8, even though my lenses go all the way down to f1.4. And the reason for that is because if I'm shooting at something like f1.4, the depth of field is so shallow at that aperture that maybe the eye is in focus, but then the nose is out of focus. So shooting at f1.4 just wouldn't be practical in those situations. And on the flip side of that, if I'm shooting a landscape, I think a lot of people always think, oh, if you're shooting a landscape, you should be shooting with a really small aperture. And that is the case if you're gonna have a foreground, a midground, and a background, because the distance between the first subject that's in focus and the background is really far. So you're gonna have to use a really small aperture. But if you're shooting a landscape and there's no foreground, there's minimal midground, and there's just a background, the depth of field doesn't need to be deep because there is no deep depth of field in the shot in and of itself. So you can shoot and get a really sharp photo at f1.4. So when you're choosing your aperture, just pay attention to how much of the frame that you really want in focus and be aware of the depth of field that your aperture is gonna give you. So don't try to shoot food with an aperture of f1.4 because it's just gonna be way too blurry. On the contrary, don't shoot portraits at f22 because everything is gonna be in crazy focus and you're not gonna be isolating your subject from the background, and that just doesn't look very good. But that is about it, guys. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope looking at all those different images was helpful for you. I know that when I was learning photography, I like to see the differences between all the different apertures, all the different shutter speeds, etc. So if you guys like this video, please let me know in the comments down below. And also, I'd love to hear from you. Do you like to shoot wide open? Are you often shooting at 1.4, 1.8, 2.0, or do you like more sharpness throughout your frame? Do you like to shoot at smaller apertures like f8 or f11 or f16? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear those. And also, if you guys are new here, once again, please subscribe. I'm dropping videos every single Friday, all of which are gonna help you become a better photographer. So we'd love to have you as part of the family. But it is miserable out here. It's gonna rain, so we're gonna get the hell out of here. We're gonna get some coffee or something, just get out of this rice field so we're not trapped here. But I'll see you guys next week. So once again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again next Friday.